welcome to the Three Inning Fan Show with me, Kelley Franco. I am so excited about my guest here today because I have baseball analyst and former Yankee catcher John Flaherty. John, thank you so much for being here today.
Kelley, it is my pleasure. It is nice to meet you, and I'm looking forward to spending some time.
Oh my gosh, me too. And I got to say, what did you think about that World Series?
Well, it was amazing. I think back to the month of July. I was up in Toronto working the Yankees Blue Jays series, and there was something special about that Blue Jay team, the way they were playing, all 26 guys being a big part of it. So I must say, I'm not surprised how far they went. I thought that they were going to pull it out at the end, but just a great World Series for baseball in general.
You know, they have got to be crushed, and their fan base has got to be crushed because the Dodgers were so heavily favored and they had it in the palm of their hands.
They did. The few times that I was in the postseason, you start thinking back to what could have been, what plays you didn't execute, or the opportunities that you had that you weren't able to cash in on. And the Blue Jays are going to be thinking all winter long about some of those small opportunities that they didn't cash in on. And it's the beauty of the postseason. It's heroes that we don't expect. It's great players showcasing their games, like Vladdy Guerrero was unbelievable. But I always enjoyed, even as a player and as an analyst, kind of looking a little bit deeper to see who's going to be that guy who's going to be a hero. And for the Dodgers, it turns out to be Rojas with that home run in the ninth inning. So again, just a great World Series for all of baseball.
What's that like now that you bring it up? If second guess on your postseason, like how long does that live with you for? I mean, the rest of your life or a couple of months and then you make peace with it?
Yeah, you think about it for the rest of your life, but it doesn't eat you up like it does for, the next couple of weeks for the Blue Jays. And, the only World Series that I went to was '03 with the Yankees against the Marlins. We were heavily favored, but we just ran out of gas with our ALCS against the Red Sox. So I think back to so many things that happened during that World Series and, the opportunities we didn't take advantage of. And to be honest with you, I just thought, well, we'll go back next year and try to win another one. And you quickly learn that the Yankees of the late 90s made it look really easy. And when you get to New York or any playoff team, you learn very quickly how hard it is to win a World Series, not only getting through the regular season healthy, but getting on a good run during the postseason. Yankees made it look so easy all those years back in the late 90s. It's a hard thing to do.
And even harder now with the expanded postseason.
Yes, no doubt about it. I mean, you got to be healthy. You got to have pitching. Bullpens are so important, but you can't overuse them. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Sure. Well, I certainly think it was one of the World Series for the ages. I mean, one that we're going to talk about, like, 1991 or 75, which I don't remember personally, but it's up there.
No, it is. It's when you get that casual fan who's really into it that it tells you how great the series was. And now the fun part is you start thinking ahead. Are the Blue Jays going to be able to sustain what they did this year and try to get it done next year? And then obviously with the Dodgers, they're such a well-run organization with a lot of finances, so you expect them to be right back in it next year as well.
Absolutely. Definitely two very well-run organizations. So it was kind of a funny week for you last week, John, because on top of
Yes.
the World Series, you went from like a guy who reports the news to kind of being the news.
Yes. It was an interesting week, but to be quite honest with you, Kelley, it was a week that I kind of expected was going to be on the way. There was a lot of changes that were made this year at Yes, a lot of kind of clues that maybe this was the direction that they were going to be going. But when you hear those words that, we're not going to offer you a contract next year, I quickly, and I was kind of proud of myself. I quickly transitioned right away to gratitude. It's amazing that I spent 20 years at the Yes Network. I literally retired as a player in spring training in '06. And 2 weeks later, I have a microphone in my hand interviewing Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, two of my old teammates, Johnny Damon, who was a new Yankee. And the transition just happened so quickly. And to look back on it and think, wow, 20 years of my life with the Yes Network and covering the Yankees. Like I said, I was just really filled with a lot of gratitude and, sent out a little tweet just to thank the Yankees and more importantly, to thank the Yankee fans. They've just been so welcoming of me and my career that I just wanted to make sure I let them know how important they are to me.
Yeah, it's going to be a blow to us Yankee fans. We kind of look to you and Jack and Bob Lorenz every night to give us a pregame show and sometimes see you in the booth. And so we're going to miss you. But I did see your statement about the gratitude, and I thought that that was just so classy that you said that. And now that I'm talking to you and I can see the look on your face, I see that you didn't just say it, that you mean it.
Oh, absolutely. Kelly, one of the great things about being a player, I mean, I was lucky enough to play 14 years in the major leagues. I had 4 in the minors, so 18 years as a player, and then you run it all the way to 38 years in professional baseball, 20 as a broadcaster. Um, I see a lot of my old teammates. I see a lot of guys that I played with who, it's a tough transition when you're not a player anymore, and you're in your mid 30s if you're lucky, and what am I going to do for the rest of my life, professionally? So, like I said, it just really happened quick for me, the gratitude piece, where 20 years that got me to, I'm 58 years old now, and I'm like, I can't believe that I've spent 38 years in professional baseball. Been very, very lucky. So, you transition, you show gratitude, and now it's very quickly like, what's next? There's a whole new world out there that I really haven't had a chance in 38 years to kind of look at. Is it something in baseball? I hope. Maybe it's going to be something completely out of baseball, which is really exciting. It's kind of, you get to this point in your life and you start thinking, what do I want to do? What else is out there? And it's kind of a real nice place to be honest with you.
Right. What do normal people do? That's probably what you're asking yourself.
Yeah. Yes. I'm like looking at LinkedIn, like, Wes, do I need to look at like some job opportunities here? Or, it's really just a nice time when you can decompress after a season, which I always try to do. And then now it's decompressing after a 20-year career at Yes, where you just kind of look at the world a little bit differently and really with open eyes on, uh, if I had a choice of what I want to do, what does that look like? It might be something in baseball, it might be something completely different. I have a lot of other interests, and it'd be exciting to see what the next chapter is.
Well, so you mentioned the transition from being a player to going into the booth, going onto the set as an analyst. What was that like for you?
Well, to be honest with you, the transition from player to retired player was very easy for me. I spent 3 years with the Yankees, my last three, and the Red Sox gave me an opportunity to try to catch Tim Wakefield, the knuckleballer, up in Boston. And I started my career with Boston. I thought it'd be a great way to end it. And I quickly realized the second day of spring training that I just didn't want to do it anymore. And it was amazing when that light switch went off in my mind, that how hard it is to be a Major League Baseball player. Like, physically and mentally, you have to be there 100%, or you're going to be embarrassed at that level. So I walked into Terry Francona's office a few weeks later. I gave it a little time to make sure it was the right decision for me, and I retired on my own terms. So that felt so great to me, to be able to say, you know what, I played 14 years and I can walk out the door with my head held high, that I tried to do it the right way. I knew I wasn't the greatest player, but I felt like I carried myself the right way. So the transition quickly from retired player was very easy. I was at peace with my playing career. And then the excitement of a new television career, I kind of dove in head first. And um, the greatest thing about when I think about my journey is all of the teams that I've been a part of as a player. And then you become part of this Yes Network team, where it's all the guys in the truck, all the guys in the studio, everybody behind the scenes. I kind of just enjoyed being a new teammate on a new team and just really dove into that head first. So it was exciting. And to be honest with you, it was a pretty easy transition for me because everybody at Yes was so helpful with, kind of getting my career going in the right direction. And 20 years as a Yes Network teammate, I value that a lot. I made a lot of great relationships, a lot of great friends there.
So it's really interesting to me that the Red Sox wanted you to be Tim Wakefield's personal catcher because weren't you also Randy Johnson's personal catcher?
Yes, I was.
What is it
Yeah.
about you that
Well, the Randy thing was some reason Jorge and Randy just didn't see eye to eye. And Joe Torre recognized that. And, I'll never forget it. Joe Girardi was the bench coach, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, Joe Torre wants to know if you'll be Randy's personal catcher and if you'll be willing to yell and scream at him for 9 innings every time he pitches." And I just said, "That'll be my absolute pleasure." And you don't know me that well, Kelley. That's not my personality, but that's what Randy needed to have some success. So my existence my last year with the Yankees was Randy Johnson and getting the most out of him. And if that meant yelling and screaming at him and staying on top of him and really pushing him, that's what I did. And we had a great second half. And then you transition that to trying to catch Tim Wakefield, the knuckleball and how tough that is. But Tim's personality was so different and so welcoming and so almost like, I know this knuckleball's really hard, but we're going to try to figure it out together. And I really enjoyed trying to work with Tim, but it was just one of those things I knew mentally at the end. I didn't want to be the guy trying to catch a knuckleball at Yankee Stadium with Red Sox Yankees on the line. I just didn't think that was going to interest me, so I decided to retire and walk away.
So you said that if you're not in 100%, you can't really be playing at that level. As an analyst, can you tell if there's someone on the field who's not in it 100%?
Well, if you can tell the mental part, you can tell the physical part, because I think we all remember going out there with aches and pains and, are you hurt or are you injured? What's, where are you at? And you can tell when guys are playing with some injuries. So it's the mental part that I think every player has to look themselves in the mirror every day and say, are you doing everything you can do to be ready to win a ball game tonight? And that's what I really felt was the most enjoyable part of my 3 years with the Yankees as a player. I felt like everybody in that clubhouse was 100% invested in winning. And I felt like when they looked at me, they could tell that I was doing the work and I was prepared in order to win a game, whether, I was a backup or was going to play a couple of days in a row. So the mental part is personal. You're the only one who knows if you're doing everything and doing it the right way to win a ball game, that night or the next day. So that's probably the toughest part to tell as an analyst.
Mm. Interesting. I'm imagining that over the course of 20 years at Yes, there must have been things that you learned about yourself that you didn't learn on the ball field. Were there?
Well, there were a lot of things. I think the first thing that you learn is when you go up to that booth, boy, the game looks a whole lot easier up there than it does when you're in the batter's box or you're behind the plate catching. And that was amazing to me that it looks like it's slow motion when you're up in the booth compared to when you're actually doing it out on the field. And I tried to remind myself every day that it looks a lot easier than it is. And you need to remember how hard it was, because I remember, especially the offensive part of the game, how hard it is to hit at the major league level. And in today's game, I don't even know how these guys do it with the high velocity and the power of pitching. It's just so hard to hit in today's game. So that's probably what I learned most was it's hard. And remember, don't ever forget how hard it is to play.
I bet. Well, we're going to get to triathlons later in the show, but
All right.
I can certainly relate to like swimming in choppy water. If you're the person that's up in the boat, it's like, oh yeah, those waves aren't so big. But when you're actually in the water and the waves are hitting you in the face, and you're like, this is how people die.
Yes,
It's different. It's different when
it's
you're that
totally
person.
different. Yes, you're right.
So I guess, yeah, I read that you told The Athletic that yes, declined to pick up your option actually last August.
Yeah.
And then maybe you were hoping there would be another contract. And as Yankee fans, we were too. It sounds like it was the kind of thing where you saw the writing on the wall. It wasn't a surprise situation.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. But with that being said, when you hear the words that you're not going to be offered a contract, it's like, oh, okay, that that was a great 20-year run. But it's not easy for anybody to hear those words. But again, like we talked about, I kind of had the writing was on the wall in August when the option wasn't picked up. And it kind of gave me some time to start thinking about other opportunities, so that when the finality of it came last week, it was like, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to go out there and see what else I want to do. And like I said, it's exciting, a little scary, but exciting, which there's nothing wrong with that at this point in my life.
Yeah, sometimes it is both of those things. When
Yeah.
a clean plate, you're like, "Oh, this is great." Then you're like, "Oh my God, there's so many options." And
Exactly.
the thought of Flash Flaherty looking on LinkedIn is actually really pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't really take a great look. I just kind of thought like maybe I should be looking, but it might get to that point soon, Kelley. We'll see.
I'm guessing you're overqualified for most of the stuff out there.
We'll see. We'll see very quickly.
Well, so, the old adage is always that catchers make the best managers and coaches. Is that a possibility?
I don't think so at this point in my life. I was definitely interested in getting back on the field probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago. Um, And to be quite honest with you, I'm probably glad that I didn't. I just think that the today's game with the analytics and the way that it's being run, it's just a game that I'm not familiar with. Like when I left in the clubhouse in '05, '06, analytics were just starting to come around, but it really was a foreign idea. So I think in order, again, to be a manager or a coach in today's game, you got to be 100% into it. You got to be, you got to be very familiar with every aspect of the analytical game, the physical game, teaching the game, remembering the mental part of the game. And I feel like that probably has passed me by. It's definitely passed me by. And again, that's a huge commitment if you're going to be, going through a big league spring training, 162 games, and then hopefully the postseason. You better be 100% into it. And I think at this point, I probably wouldn't be.
Well, it's interesting because when you get to be our age, you think like, oh yeah, 2005, 2006, that wasn't that long ago. But it kind of was. I mean, it was 20 years ago. And then when you put it in those baseball terms, as when you say, oh, analytics were just beginning to have an influence, I mean, it now seems like it was a million years ago.
Yes, absolutely. And there is a part of me that is very curious. That's the one thing about being a broadcaster. We're not privy to all that information in the clubhouse with these guys getting ready to prepare for a major league game. I would have loved to have been just a little fly in the wall just to see how that whole process goes with all of the information, all of the preparation, with the numbers, the video, the mental part of it. I would have loved to have just kind of seen what it looked like and felt like, because it's like I said, it's just foreign to me at this point.
Yeah, especially for the pitchers and catchers. I mean, spin rate and velo and just all that stuff.
Yeah, and I remember in '05, I was catching Randy Johnson, and I was getting information in my locker before games about the lineup that we were going to face and the numbers that they had against left-handed pitching, because obviously it applied to Randy Johnson. And to be honest with you, I remember being behind the plate and being overwhelmed with all the numbers, because my whole life calling a game behind the plate was, what's my guy doing well out on the mound? How does it match up against the guy at the plate? And what am I seeing between both of these guys, and kind of calling a game that way? And I found myself for the first time not paying attention to my pitcher or the hitter. I was paying attention to numbers in my mind. And I quickly said, I can't do this. This isn't the way I'm going to be able to get Randy Johnson through a lineup. So I appreciated the information, but I had to go with kind of what I did for my whole career, which was calling a game more by what I saw from my guy and the hitter at the plate.
So I have always wondered what percentage of catchers actually call the game for the pitcher? Like how much comes in from the dugout? How often do catchers call 100% of their own game? Can you
Yeah,
enlighten me on that?
of course. Great question. I would say very, very little over my 14 years in the major leagues ever came from the dugout. There were some times where some managers or pitching coaches would kind of get your attention on they wanted a certain pitch called, but that was very, very little. Um, I always looked at it like my job was to make a suggestion to my pitcher on this is what I think you should be throwing in this count, in this situation. And it's up to that pitcher on whether he's going to go with you on that pitch or he wants to do something different. And I always felt like, even if it was the wrong pitch, in my opinion, if he's convicted that it's the right pitch in his mind, he's probably going to throw a much better pitch than if he's doubting my pitch selection. So I always told all of my guys, you're the final say. I'm just making suggestions. Now, along the way, you'll find that there are a lot of different personalities out there. Mike Mussina was totally in charge of what pitches he was throwing in his pitch selection, to the point I loved the challenge of trying to get in his mind because it really was another level. And then there were guys like David Wells who didn't want to think about pitch selection. If you put something down, he was going to throw it. So there are just different personalities on how they went about their business during their careers. And it's really the one thing, Kelley, I miss about playing is trying to get on the same page with the pitcher and have a game plan and being able to execute it and maybe making some changes during the game that nobody else knows about. 56,000 people have no idea. But after the game, when you go in that clubhouse, you and your starting pitcher kind of look at each other and say, yeah, we did a good job tonight. We made some adjustments and got through a game. That's probably the biggest part of the game that I miss.
As you talk about it, it dawns on me what a relationship of trust it is for a pitcher to get out there and let a catcher call the pitches.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I tell young pitchers is your pitcher out on the mound better know that you're prepared. When he steps on that mound and he looks to throw that first pitch, there can't be any thought that my guy behind the plate isn't ready to go. He doesn't know what he's doing, because that will fracture a pitcher catcher relationship as quick as anything out there. So I always just tried to prove to my guys that I was prepared physically. I did my homework. I watched video. I studied opposing hitters. I studied lineups. And when we would talk about a game plan before the game, you're hoping that your conversations kind of validate all of that. So when you go out there, it's a team. It's two guys figuring out a lineup together. Now, obviously, there were personalities along the way that I just did not get on the same page with. I didn't like some of the pitchers I caught. I'm sure some of the pitchers didn't like me. You try to throw all of that out and keep it as professional as possible. But the best situations are when you really get along with somebody. You think about the game the same way, you see it the same way, and that's when the results are pretty special.
I should say so. It's funny when you talked about how Randy Johnson needed to be yelled at. I was thinking, was it Jorge Posada and El Duque? Were they the ones
Yeah.
who were always yelling at each other?
Oh yeah, and that would translate not only out on the field but into the clubhouse too. Those were two fiery personalities that I love both of those guys, and I just used to sit there, Kelley, and just like watch and then chuckle to myself because it's all it's the competition, it's the fiery personalities, and it's nothing personal. They just both want the best, and they both want. And that's the one thing about Jorge that I was totally impressed with. He was all about his pitching staff and getting the most out of those guys. But those two, they just found a way to butt heads a lot, and it worked. The results were there out on the field,
It was pretty entertaining to the fans. I could say that much.
and the teammates too. I enjoyed it as well. I did.
So, the thing about you, John, is that a lot of players, when they retire, they kind of, let themselves go. But you looked pretty much like if we asked you to put on the pads tomorrow and catch 9 innings, you could still get it done.
Well, I appreciate that. When you just brought that up, I was thinking to my last spring training with the Red Sox, and I forget this catcher's name, but there's always usually like 6 or 8 catchers in big league camp, and there was a veteran guy, and I remember he made a comment like, "I can't wait to retire and put on 40 pounds," and
Oh,
I kind of just thought to myself like, that sounds terrible to me, and I really made it a point that I didn't want to be one of those guys where you put on a bunch of weight once you retire and then you spend the rest of your life trying to lose it. because we all, excuse me, we all know it gets harder as you get older. So I've always enjoyed the physical part of getting ready for a major league season through my playing career. I loved the off season, how hard it was physically, so that when I got to the season, that was the reward for all the work that you did during the off season. So I just kind of carried that through. When I retired, I said, I'm just going to keep going physically, whether it's the weight room in the morning or, um, I went through a little triathlon phase that I was doing for my competitiveness, but the gym has really been the way for my whole playing career. And now 20 years with Yes, I'm a gym guy in the morning. If I don't get to the gym first thing in the morning, I feel like my day can't start. I have to get it taken care of. It's more mental for me than physical. I love to start my day out that way. And 58 years old, I got some bumps and bruises, some injuries that we're playing through, but I still really, really enjoy my time in the gym first thing in the morning to get my day going.
Gosh, we are really kind of two of the same because I cannot start my day if I haven't worked out. And I don't even like talking to people, including my husband, before I've worked out. I mean, nobody benefits. My mother used to tell me I was miserable before I worked out. So that kind of takes me through life. And so you're a morning guy too.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I have my morning routine. I wake up at the same time. I do the same thing in the morning. I get to the gym at the same time. And like I said, I'm battling through a few things now. So we're trying to mix and match with some of the exercises. But no, I just feel like I need to be done by 8:30 or 9. And then I look at my whole day and I'm a better version of myself moving forward. So, yeah, it's just the way I've always been. And I didn't think that there was a reason to change that as I got older. Now, maybe the only thing that might change that is if I go on LinkedIn and I find a 9 to 5 job and I got to commute into the city and I can't get to the gym in the morning. That might be the only thing that changes it, Kelley, but hopefully
Now
not.
you'll figure it out. You'll
Yeah,
just start getting up at like 4 in the morning and
probably. Yeah,
yeah.
probably.
Tell me about the triathlon phase.
Yeah, so I was raising my kids in Pearl River, New York. I grew up in West Nyack and Rockland County, lived in Florida for a little bit, and then moved to Pearl River with the Yankees and built a house there. I was raising my kids there. And there was a local charity group that raised money for Huntington's disease. That had some, personal relationships there. And I got involved with the charity and did some things for them. And then they said that they were doing the West Point Triathlon and that they were going to raise awareness uh, for their charity. And would I be interested? And of course, I said, yeah, I would be interested. Now, I answered that question with not having any idea how to swim. I figured, I've run in my life, that'll be fine, and I'll figure out the bike. So I agreed to do this. And I trained and I was into it. Like I was, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way. So I went to a local pool and, started swimming from one end to the other. And then, of course, I would stand there and I would swim back the other way. And I thought I was ready to swim half a mile in a lake with no walls or anything like that. And I quickly
Uh-oh.
realized, yeah, I quickly realized as I get going in the water and I'm not even 50 yards into this, and I kind of look around like, uh-oh, I'm in big trouble. And here's the kicker. The Yes Network set a camera crew to document my first triathlon at West Point, the West Point Triathlon. I'll never forget it. When I took a little breath and I looked over to the side, Paul Beckerly, who's one of our camera guys, is standing there with the camera locked in on me. So, Kelley, you got a decision to make, right? You can turn around and your day's over, and that's
Not gonna happen.
always gonna be documented with that camera. Or you can do what I did, and I'm not proud to say this, but I flipped over on my back and I literally did like a little paddle on my back and completed a half a mile all the way out to one point in this lake, all the way in. And I have never been so happy to hit land after swimming a half a mile on my back and just basically doing a little backstroke or whatever it was. I go on the bike, do great there, go on the run and finish. And I literally, when I got across the finish line, said, I'm never doing that again. That was the worst thing I've ever done. That night, I'm on my computer Googling how to teach myself how to swim. And therein lies my mentality, because it was a challenge now that I had to figure out. And I ended up doing probably 7 or 8 more triathlons. The longest distance I did was Chicago, which is an Olympic. So I swam a mile in Lake Michigan. And I'm proud to say that at the end of my triathlon career, I was always in the top 25% of the swim portion. I was a little slower on the bike and a lot slower on the run. But it was amazing to me that the single thing that I could not do when I started this journey, I became pretty good at the end of it. So I was proud of that. And then, I signed up for a half Ironman, which is obviously a big commitment. And I started thinking about kind of doing a full Ironman one day, and then just had some injuries that kind of cropped up, and just had one of those moments like, what am I doing? Like, I caught over 1,000 games in the major leagues, and my body's telling me this isn't probably something that's going to be good for you. So I just kind of got away from it and got back into the gym and doing some other things. But I enjoyed my triathlon little career. I enjoyed the charities that I was involved with doing it. And I'm proud of the fact that I could say that I'm not a bad swimmer now after that whole experience. Yeah.
It's a great sport to learn because you can do it forever. I'm sure you've had the same experience of being in a pool and there'll be like some 95-year-old dude
Yep.
next to you just swimming laps forever. And I think, please God, let that be me.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the longest distance you've done?
Olympic was my
Yeah.
longest too. I think I maybe did 3 Olympics.
Yeah.
Um, and very much the same thing for me. I thought, yeah, I can swim. And then at the idea of swimming a mile out in Long Island Sound, you're like, maybe I need a lesson.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I realized I had wasted my entire youth playing Marco Polo in 3 feet of water. I'm like, could I maybe swum a lap? Apparently not.
Yes. Yes. It's a skill. It really is once you learn it. But yeah, I got to the point where I learned not to fight the water and maybe more towards the glide in the water, and became pretty therapeutic. I really enjoyed it. And as we're even talking about it, I'm thinking I probably should get back into the swimming part, because my body felt amazing when you get out of a pool or in a lake or wherever you're swimming.
I have to say, I do one swim a week at the Y, and it's the hardest workout to get yourself to do because it's dark when you get up.
Yeah.
And you just got to get there. And especially in the winter, it's cold and you got to go to
Mm.
the pool. But it's one of those workouts where it's a complete 180. When you're done, you are just on top of the world.
You feel amazing coming out of the pool. Absolutely. I have vivid memories of that. Yes.
So when I had Jack Curry on the show, he made a joke about how he and Bob Lorenz would be ordering a pizza for dinner and you'd be having like grass-fed beef jerky and, raw green beans. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
So
Now,
tell me about your eating regimen. I want to know about this.
well, it's pretty simple. The one thing that I always felt like I could control was what I was eating during the off season as a player, right? Once you get to the season, it's different with all the traveling and stuff that you're doing. So the same thing when I transitioned into broadcasting, I was like, well, if I'm in the studio with Bob and Jack in Connecticut, I can bring the food that I want to eat. I can control that. If I'm working a game at Yankee Stadium, I can do the same thing. I pack my little lunch box and I bring my dinner with me so that I'm not tempted about the pizza and the hot dogs and the burgers. When I went on the road to do games, then it gets obviously a little bit tougher. So, yes, Jack is right. Every time I showed up in the studio, um, they would order food or they'd bring in their own food. But I was pretty diligent on, this is what I want to eat, either grass-fed steak, some organic chicken. I love my string beans. And I would just try, if I can control that, I would think to myself, okay, I'm working 50 games in the studio. Those are 50 good meals I could have, as opposed to just mailing it in and, pizza and hot hamburgers and all that stuff. So just controlling the things that I could control a little bit. So yeah, Jack let the cat out of the bag with that one. Yeah. Yeah.
You strike me as a disciplined person. Does discipline keep you grounded? What does it do for you?
Um, well, I think the root of all of this discipline is probably the fact that I had never thought I was good enough to play in the major leagues. To be quite honest with you, I was a I had one scholarship offer that I took to go to George Washington University, a small baseball school. I was drafted late by the Red Sox, and to be honest with you, I just told myself when I signed my first professional contract, I'm going to do everything I can do to try to make it to the major leagues. But I always had that thought, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. Like you can't run, you can't hit, all these things that I would beat myself up mentally. So the discipline part just became, I can control what I can control physically with my body and being in shape, whatever I was eating, hydration, all of that stuff. And give myself a chance to play with the best players in the world is really what it came down to. So I've just kind of never gotten rid of that. And I've always, even with the broadcasting, felt like you got to be disciplined. You have to, even my boss, John Filippelli, when he gave me the job, he said, you don't have the name that these other guys have. You're going to have to do it better. You're going to have to be prepared. So it's always just been my mindset moving forward that I'm not good enough. I better prepare better than everybody else in order to be even on the same page competing with them.
Well, it's inspirational, really. I think so.
Well, I hope so. The one thing that I will say that I'm proud of the way I came out of my playing career and even now my time at Yes, I feel like I went about it the right way. So I feel like I gained a lot of respect from some teammates for the way I went about it and my preparation and they call being a pro about how you go about your business and can kind of say the same thing with my preparation and the way I treated people with my Yes career. So I guess it's not the worst thing in the world to be prepared and ready to go and treat people the right way. And, it's worked out pretty well so far. So I'll keep doing it.
Well, I should say so. And I can't wait to see what the next thing is. I'm kind of envisioning like Flash Flaherty's gym. I mean, maybe you could open a gym. I like it.
Yeah. Listen, I've thought about, a lot of different things. And, we just hit on it a little bit. The physical part and the mental part of working out every day has been a big part of my life. So there might be some path there that's going to work out. Who knows? You got to stay tuned, Kelley. You got to stay tuned.
Oh, I will. I will. And I hope you'll come back on the show to tell us all about it. So I don't want to keep you too long. So I'm going to wrap this up, John. And we close every show here at the Three Inning Fan with a very important question. And the answer better not be green beans. Okay, I'm telling you that. The question is, what is good to eat while watching the ball game? You can be in the studio, you can be on your couch at home. When you're splurging, John, what's good to eat at the ball game?
Oh, now I'm splurging. It's not my
Well,
my.
okay, you
So
can give us the non-splurge and the splurge.
yeah, the non-splurging is without a doubt a grass-fed steak with my green beans.
Mhm.
Very simple. Love it. Spent a lot of World Series games watching in front of that TV on that couch over there. Um, Great way to end my day. I would say that the splurging would definitely be a sausage pizza
Mm.
with a
Yeah,
little
that's good.
with a little Diet Coke. That
Diet
would
Coke.
probably,
Do you
yeah,
indulge in an adult beverage or no?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
There
All
might
right.
be
The
a
Diet Coke.
glass of red wine or two maybe involved in there too after that Diet Coke. Yes.
I like
Yes.
red wine with pizza.
Yes, it goes well. It goes
I
well. It's
think
good,
so. Yeah.
good pairing. Good pairing.
How do you prepare your grass-fed steak?
So I grill all my steaks out there. I use a little Baja Gold sea salt. Um,
Okay.
Yep, and pretty much straightforward. And then the green beans and a little either olive oil or butter, and maybe with a little garlic in there, and let's let it fly. Pretty simple.
Roasted or sautéed?
Sauteed.
Mhm.
Yep, yep. And here's the other thing you need to know about me. The discipline doesn't get that far away with the meals either. I found what works. I don't have a whole lot of variety, but I just keep it where I know what I'm getting, I know what I'm doing, and then I do like to enjoy myself on the weekends a little bit and get it back on Monday morning and do it all over again.
That sounds amazing. I really respect it, and it's been wonderful talking with you today. Gosh, John, thank you so much for your time today.
It is my pleasure. I've enjoyed it as well. Thank you, Kelley.
All right, friends, we'll be back next week. Big thanks to John Flaherty, and I'll see you next time.